Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're looking at the General. The General was first released in the United States in 1990. It offered the driver Major Storm and also included the Locust helicopter, which we will get to in a few days when we actually get to the Locust. The General was available as well in 91, but unfortunately was discontinued in 1992. The G.I. Joe's Mobile Strike headquarters and launch pad. So this is essentially a mobile rear base for any ongoing battle for GI Joe, or if you think about it in some other regards, as we're coming up with all these other little groups, this is a quick base to throw out as a headquarters until they get something a little bit more set up. If for nothing else, they could throw this out there and do a bivouac, and you have a mobile repair, refueling station, and so on and so forth, being possibly a lighter alternative to the mobile command headquarters that we had seen in previous years. Okay, so Yojo does give us a nice look at Major Storm version 1. And of course, he was released as part of the ninth series, the 1990, packaged exclusively with the General Mobile Assault Fort. And unfortunately, he was discontinued domestically in 1991. Yojo does give us some wonderful pictures here of the General. Looking at this, it is an interesting concept here. Essentially, we have what looks like two different truck chassis, very much of something you would see from like a deuce and a half or a 5 ton. So we do have our steering tires as well as our dualies in the back. And having a rear view of this, when it's deployed, we could have the landing pad here for our Locust helicopter, or whatever else would fit on there. I think of probably like the Skyhawk, but we do have that there, and I did miss these missiles in the back. I'm sorry. I will get those in when we look at our stats. And it also reveals that we do have our heavy mortar cannon. Okay, so looking at all the different missiles that we have here, as well as some antenna as well, these front missiles are going to be for the Locust. I do remember having the Locust, but I only had the Locust itself. I didn't have all the other stuff. So that was a very interesting little tiny helicopter. It's always an interesting design when you get trying to have like micro helicopters, stuff like that. So I thought it was very interesting. And then we have some other kind of bombs or whatever, and the standard missiles that we have. I think these missiles are for our quad missile launchers. And then we have 6 missiles in the front and 6 missiles in the back. And I think that's the vast majority of the other missiles that we have here. And all the way in the back, we have 4 of our heavy mortar rounds. Okay, so looking at the box art here, it does show a wonderful concept. As a mobile platform, of course, it looks like they're driving it, but they also have the back deployed, so it's a little different in that regard. I could see this being deployed out, like I said, as a bivouac mobile command headquarters, something lighter, something easier to transport, and something that we can get out to wherever it's needed to start a new headquarters for another splinter faction of the overall G.I. Joe, whether it's your Night Force or Tiger Force or whatever else that we come up with. Sky Patrol being another one, whatever. Okay, looking at everything we have here, really we only have, I think, 5 different weapon systems. And 2 of them are very similar because we have here on top of the platform, on the corners, we have essentially like M60 machine guns, but it's a dual set. On the bottom corners, then we have a triple set. So that's almost the same but slightly different. We do have our missiles in the front as well as in the back, and I did miss the back ones when I was looking at the stats. So we do have 3 missiles on each side. So there's 6 total in the front, 6 in the back. And then we also have our um, quad missile battery systems. Uh, and then what's hidden at the moment is our heavy mortar system. And that's all really well explained here. Although, like I said, looking at the schematics, I did miss the missiles in the back. So we will make sure that we have that set up. Now we do have a driver and a pilot and co-pilot, driver, co-driver, whatever, in here. I really do think that having a co-driver, again, probably the person that's going to be sitting there doing a lot of the missile systems. But looking at the seats, it's a forward and backward. So essentially, you can have 4 people in that cockpit. So you may have them manning a couple different weapon systems here while you're driving. And we have all the storage for the missiles, the mortar rounds, all that fun stuff. They did come up with some interesting designs. Some of them not being as practical as what we would think of as kids. Most notably, and I know that there was somebody that I can't. I want to say it was Analog Toys. He had a video talking about the SAS Big Ben. The fact that they gave him an M16, but it's a double-barreled version of it, which is very impractical because now you're going to go through rounds that much faster, and the addition of an extra barrel really does not help because now neither barrel is going to be lined up exactly where you want for your sights and all that. But yeah, I understand where he's going from a former military person myself. I only spent 2 years in the infantry. I don't have a huge, extensive understanding of everything in the military. Playing role-playing games and keeping up with some things in the past, I understand better today than I did back then. But it's still, as a collector and as a fan or whatever, I can sometimes just say, look, it's just meant for the fun and the excitement of it all. And that's where we get a lot of this stuff. And it is fun and exciting looking at the concepts that a toy manufacturer comes up with for really what would be a longer battle. But in GI Joe, we don't. I mean, we have a constant back and forth for a terrorist organization. But it's not like World War II where we needed to set up a command headquarters here as we kept fighting forward and just taking over land in a sweeping motion. Those battles seem to be well behind us for the most part, at least. But we still have those ideas in our tactics, especially in the toys that we have from G.I. Joe. So with that, let us get into the toy itself and look at the stats that we have for our D6 universe. All right, so looking at the General as our kind of D6 universe mobile platform here. We do have this at speeder scale. Length, I have it roughly at about 40 feet folded up for transportation and about 60 feet deployed with that ramp that the Locust is currently sitting on, deployed backwards as a refueling depot or whatever. Now I have a crew of 2, so we're going to have 2 people trying to drive this and navigate, and then we have about 10 gunners from what I can figure. Cargo capacity, I have this kind of high. And I did this on purpose because it's also a refueling station and all that, so we're going to need cargo capacity for fuel and everything else, extra ammo reloads and so on and so forth for the troops. This is a mobile base, so I wanted to have a bigger cargo area for that reason. So giving it roughly about a 20 tons, We probably could have just left it at 20 tons instead of putting the kilograms in there. Whether you want to use it as a metric or standard SAE, however you want to look at it, I don't, that's immaterial. I know there's a slight weight difference between the two of them, but just throwing it out there of 20 tons. We do have full coverage being put onto this. Of course, it all depends on where you are and so on and so forth, but I think you guys get the idea. Of course, this is going to be our ground altitude. Maneuverability, this thing is not going to turn very nicely, so I think a 0D plus 1 would be appropriate. It's going to be hectic trying to turn it. We're going to have two different sets of turning wheels. I think it can work out okay, but it's a very wide and long and ungainly thing to really maneuver. Not saying that people couldn't specialize in it and get very well on maneuvering this. And for the time frame that we are looking at, it's not like we have backup cameras like we do on our vehicles today. Movement. Now, I don't want this going overly fast because it is a very wide vehicle, and trying to maneuver around things, I think it makes things a little difficult. So we're going to want this a little slower. So I kept it about 35 miles an hour. Body strength, I want this beefed up a little bit, so it's at 5D. Now, this is still only at speeder scale. It's not at walker scale. So that does mean that, a well-placed missile or whatever could do some serious damage. This is still a rear line vehicle, but the fact that we're going to want this beefed up, because chances are in your refueling and that you're going to have the occasional vehicle bumping into it or whatever else. It's going to happen. So we do want this beefed up a little bit so it can handle the wear and the tear of transporting itself, possibly a helicopter, having the repair bay back there, as well as all the wear and tear that the troops are going to do on this vehicle. I think we're going to want a little bit higher body strength, so that's why I gave it a 5D. Now, for the weapons, we do have the two quad missile launcher batteries, or missile batteries. These are speeder scale, turreted on the top. Fire control is going to be a 2D, and damage is 7D per missile, our standard. We also have the 4 triple missile launchers, 2 in the front, 2 in the rear. I think I've got the right, yeah, we have the right range here. Fire control is going to be 3D plus 1 for those. These are different sets, so this might be, I think that's where I used to keep the missiles, and the quad missile batteries being a little bit more independent, I didn't give them quite as high as what I normally do. But the fact is, they're there, probably going to be fired by your co-pilot or whoever's in the back. They might be manning those stations. Now, we also have, 4 triple repeating blasters. Now, these are in the front and the back above our axles. Honestly, I think these, they are a turreted vehicle, but these would have to be fired from inside. There is no manned station here. So that means that whoever is firing these are going to be firing them from inside, for better or worse. Or, and keep this, inside here, there might be a station for someone else to be sitting in there and taking care of the firing from that point. Either way, we don't actively see a spot for someone to stand here and shoot, so we'll just leave it at that. It does have a fire control of 1D. Damage is 7D because there's the 3 weapons all fire linked, and it is at personnel scale. A lot of these weapons are more personnel scale, except for the missiles, mainly because you're going to have to worry about, once you park this thing, it's people trying to come around and infiltrate and all that. So we're looking at it in that regard. Now we have our mortar cannon, which is going to be at Walker scale. This has a fire control of 1D plus 1. Range, I'm guessing a little bit more on the range here. So close range is going to go out to about 800 meters. That might have to actually, for a mortar, I think that's probably close. Why don't we put that at 1 kilometer maybe? No, 1.5 kilometers. Then we go out to 5 kilometers and then 15 kilometers. This is a big, you know, we have some big shells here. So looking at it in those regards, just trying to keep things in that perspective, where are we going to go? Now, I guess the big question here is, do we want to have a damage system where we've done it before, where it has a bigger amount of damage at the center and then it lessens as it goes out, by say like 10 feet increments or something like that, which we could easily put in here. So damage starts at 70, then we could do 6D, 5D, 4D, and then we're going to just drop it off. So you go out every 10 feet from that spot, and then that's where we're going to have it. I think that would work very well, mainly because this is a mortar, this is an explosive shell, kind of like a grenade in a regard, but a much larger version of that. I think it's got that possibility. Something I wasn't thinking of when I was first looking at it, but thinking about mortars and how they do kind of work. It is a shell that does have the shrapnel and all that going out there, so we could do that. And then we also have the 4 dual repeating blasters. Now these are in the corner turrets. Personnel scale, fire control is 1D, and damage is 6D. Now, like I said, we'll get to the Locust later on. That is in the lineup here, coming in a couple days. But wanting to get this out because this is our next vehicle going down the line. That's really how I've been going about doing this. Now, we do have, and I think I kind of passed over it, a passenger allowance of 20 personnel. Again, this is a command center. A mobile command center, yes. It's got the mortar to be a good support weapon or whatever. Thinking about it, just like when you watch G.I. Joe and you see G.I. Joe headquarters, they have that huge laser cannon as a support laser for whatever. It's the same kind of an idea. We want a massive weapon as a support weapon. Yeah, we can. You could probably traverse it left and right to some degree. I don't know exactly how far you'd want to say you can go, but it's still a iconic vision that we have of G.I. Joe. When you look at the headquarters, we have that huge cannon on the front, and with the heavy mortar cannon, that does very much the same thing. We are here with the might and the force to help protect the area that we are in. And this is our rear support guard, a mobile headquarters. So that's the iconic vision I'm hoping that we can display with what they have given us, and I think it is very fitting. Not that we always want to use might if we have to, but unfortunately, in the world that we have, such as ours, you can't keep peace unless you have some way to wage war to say this is why we have to keep peace. We have people that don't like each other because of a ton of different reasons. Unfortunately, in today's climate, politics seems to be just enough of a reason that people just don't care for each other. Which, it's funny because when you get into a military sense, I never worried about anybody's politics. These are the people I'm going to war with for whatever the country needs me to go to war, whether it's to fight against terrorists or you're trying to save people from some other country or whatever. That's why we are there. We're there to do what we are hoping is the good fight. And I could care less about the politics of the guy that's sharing the foxhole with me. I'm just more worried about, is he there and does he have my back? Because I'm there and I have his back. And that's all I worry about. I think if we can get back down to that, we could do a lot better. Hopefully, be less divisive here in our own country. But it is what it is, um, and we are who we are, for the better or worse of us. So, with that, hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so very much for joining me. Thanks for listening to my little extra rant. I apologize. I try not to get into that stuff too much, but um, hope your day is going well. Hope you're doing well. There's a lot of people currently with a lot of colds and all that, and I'm still kind of trying to recover from my own. So hopefully you're not dealing with that, and we'll see you in the next video.